President Trump will record a robocall for Roy Moore that will reach Alabama voters the day before the election, Politico reports. Why it matters: Trump is all in, and his support could convince some Republicans to go to the polls. That's key, as turnout in special elections is typically very low. The advisor for Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas said Abbas would not meet with Vice President Mike Pence during his trip to the Middle East this month. He said America has crossed all red lines. This isn't contained to just Israel. The anger spread around the world to other Muslim-majority nations, the BBC reports. Per BBC, the United States was isolated at the UN Security Council meeting on Friday, as the 14 other members condemned the United States decision. Manuel Bale, Senita AP event. President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania enjoy the traditional inaugural luncheon on Capitol Hill on Inauguration Day. Backdrop: an American painting traditionally serves as the background at this luncheon. In this case, The Verdict of the People by George Caleb Bingham was chosen, which depicts citizens rejoicing and grieving election results. Of course, Donald Trump's own election was hotly contested and unexpected by most polls and pundits. 2. Roosevelt Pablo Martinez Monsiváis AP event. In April, President Trump signed an executive order to expand offshore drilling for oil and gas reserves in areas that President Obama had withdrawn from energy development. Advocates against offshore drilling are concerned of possible negative impacts drilling has on marine life. Backdrop: Trump spoke in front of a portrait of President Theodore Roosevelt, who was a passionate outdoorsman and conservationist who established 150 national forests, 51 federal bird reserves, 4 national game preserves, 5 national parks and 18 national monuments on over 230 million acres of public land, according to the Interior Department. 3. Churchill Pablo Martinez Monsiváis AP event. President Trump met with conservative British Prime Minister Theresa May in January. Backdrop: the two posed for photos in front of a bust of Winston Churchill, who also led the British Conservative Party and was the British Prime Minister during World War II. Churchill first called the relationship between Great Britain and the U.S. a special relationship. President Obama had removed the Churchill bust in the Oval Office to replace it with one of Martin Luther King Jr. Although Trump kept the MLK bust, he also brought in an identical Churchill bust shortly after assuming office. 4. Jackson's Susan Walsh AP event. Last week, President Trump honored former Navajo code talkers for their service. Backdrop: in the background in the Oval Office is a portrait of Andrew Jackson, who signed the Indian Removal Act in 1830, which resulted in the death of thousands of Native Americans as they were forced off their land to march on foot to established Indian territories. 5. Clinton Evan Vucci AP event. On the first day of public tours in Trump's White House, Trump surprised his guests by welcoming them himself. Backdrop: Trump emerged in front of the First Lady portrait of his former election opponent, Hillary Clinton. 212,000 people have been evacuated, according to ABC. Schools in 16 districts have been shut down. On Sunday, wind gusts in the region will be around 35 to 55 miles per hour. Around 4,500 people in northern San Diego are without power, and another 4,300 are powerless because of the Thomas Creek and Rye fires. In Ventura County, 143,000 acres are burned and more than 400 buildings destroyed, including at least 150 homes, per the New York Times. The Thomas Fire: more than 88,000 people were evacuated, 537 structures have been destroyed and 118 or damaged, per ABC. The Creek Fire: 80% contained with over 15,000 acres burned, per CNN. It has destroyed more than 30 homes. ABC reports over 15,000 residents were evacuated, and almost 2,000 people are fighting it. The Rye Fire: 65% contained. The LA Times reports around 2,000 people were evacuated, and there are more than 800 people fighting it. The Skirball Fire: per ABC, there were 475 acres burned. It's 50% contained. As of Saturday morning, 6 buildings were destroyed. The Lilac Fire: 20% contained. As of Saturday morning, 3 people with burns, and 2 firefighters injured, 105 structures destroyed. The Liberty Fire: 90% contained. On Friday night, 300 acres torched, ABC reports. A uranium company sent a letter to the Interior Department earlier this year urging the Trump administration to shrink Bears Ears National Monument in Utah, the Washington Post reports. The backdrop: President Trump announced on Monday that he would shrink Bears Ears by 85%, cutting more than 1 million acre. Energy Fuels Resources, the uranium company, said the creation of the national monument under Obama could impact existing and future projects. Interior Secretary Zinke has said the decision was not about energy, though critics have raised the possibility that Trump's move will open the area up for mining. More Trump insight from the Times. No one is allowed to touch the remote but him and technical support staff, and even when it's muted, he's monitoring the headlines and planning to check back later. He has a soft side, which he's shown in private when interacting with children and speaking about addiction, a deeply personal issue as his brother struggled with alcoholism. He doesn't advertise that side of himself, as it cracks the veneer of strength that he relishes. The Times describes Trump's day as an orby-hour battle for self-preservation, in which he must fight to protect his position every day, and Twitter is his weapon of choice. He views John Kelly as a crucial confidant, and reportedly craves his approval, calling him up to 12 times a day. One key line for most of the year, people inside and outside Washington have been convinced that there is a strategy behind Mr. Trump's actions. But there is seldom a plan apart from preemption, self-defense, obsession and impulse. President Trump traveled to Mississippi on Saturday morning to speak at the opening of a new civil rights museum. Today we pay solemn tribute to our heroes of the past and dedicate ourselves to building a future of freedom, equality, justice and peace, he said. These buildings embody the hope that has lived in the hearts of every American for generations, the hope and the future that is more just and more free. President Trump says https://log01erc6pic.twitter.com/5bip. CBS News at CBS News December 9, 2017. The backdrop: John Lewis, the congressman and civil rights hero, declined to attend in protest of Trump's presence. Behind Walmart and Jet.com's new deal with Tasty, the BuzzFeed owned app for recipes and food videos, is an e-commerce tech startup named Button. How it works: Button, a 3-year-old startup based in New York, is connecting Tasty's app to Walmart via deep linking, a mobile app technology akin to hyperlinks for web pages. Through deep linking, tapping on an item in Tasty's app leads directly to its purchase page in Walmart or Jet's apps, avoiding the need to search for it there. Why it matters, though critical in connecting mobile apps to each other and to websites for growth, e.g., app downloads, referrals, better attribution and commerce, few companies have succeeded at building a business out of the technology. While some like Button and Branch seemed to have cracked it, many others like URX, acquired by Pinterest and Quixie, just couldn't. With unemployment so low and the economy fundamentally healthy, a tax cut could lead the economy to grow too quickly, pushing up inflation and forcing the Federal Reserve to raise interest rates. Joseph Song, an economist at Bank of America: it's a very poorly timed fiscal stimulus. It kind of raises the risk of a boom-bust cycle. For now, however, the figures present a political opportunity for President Trump.